The biggest names, the biggest brands, and the biggest basketball games all coming in the East End. We're going to head to Cowboy Country with Kountry Wayne. Plenty to break down. How about them Cowboys, Ed? LA Lakers or LA Fakers? Just when we started to believe, good Lord. Yahoo Sports Daily starts right now. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. For the next 2 hours, we're rack stacked to back with tons to get to. Celebrity guests. We got tons to break down from last night to get you ready for the tournament. But Caroline, let's start by taking a look at what happened last night. The women took the stage, and they got all of the shine and the spotlight as the women's tournament was underway, and the action was absolutely great. We had some statements, all right? The number one seeds all came out and made statements with their win. UConn, 98-45 over Syracuse. South Carolina over USC, 101-61. And then we have a UCLA over Oklahoma State, 87-68. So with those three outcomes, which one impressed you the most, Caroline?
If we just want to focus on the ones right now, when I originally put my bracket out, I had all 4 ones going to the Final Four, and I had UConn winning the national championship game. And I got slightly roasted for that, about not being different, not being bold, not thinking outside of the box. Hello, this is why. Hello, have we seen these 1 seeds? Because the 1 seeds are winning. Because UConn is UConning. In South Carolina, I want to highlight South Carolina. If we want to touch on all these seeds, I would like to touch on South Carolina first. We've talked so much about UConn, and frankly, at this point, from what we've seen from UConn, I don't know what else to say other than they are as advertised. They are absolutely terrifying. We've touched on UCLA and how difficult Lauren Betts is to defend. We've touched on Texas. Can Vic Schaefer win his first national championship, the superstar that Madison Booker is? And I don't know why we just kind of have conveniently just glossed over South Carolina, oh, yeah, by the way. And they're going to their 12th straight Sweet 16 under Dawn Staley. But let's talk about something else. I don't want to gloss over the greatness and the excellence of the South Carolina team. And I also want to point out how difficult it probably was for Dawn Staley to get here. South Carolina lost Chloe Kitts for the season to an ACL tear, and it doesn't feel like South Carolina has missed a beat. One of South Carolina's most glaring deficiencies maybe last year was their size. So what does Dawn Staley do? She goes out and she gets Medina Okot in the transfer portal, who, oh yeah, by the way, had 15 points and 15 rebounds last night against Southern Cal. We talked a lot about how maybe South Carolina wasn't as deep as they were in previous years. In previous years, Dawn Staley has really relied on her bench for winning championships or getting to Final Fours. But South Carolina got 30 points off the bench last night. South Carolina had 2 bench players in double digits last night. And of course, part of that is they were up so big, so early in this game. Southern Cal never had a lead in this game. So Dawn Staley was able to rest her starters a little bit and turn to her bench earlier maybe than normal. But still, this South Carolina team, they have shown us all season long. But I don't know why we haven't really been paying attention, why we've been distracted maybe by some other great teams. And look, UCLA, UConn, Texas, LSU, Vanderbilt, all great and wonderful teams, and all teams that if they find themselves in Final Fours, I will not be surprised in the slightest. But South Carolina has every single piece of a championship formula. They have size, they have depth, they have experience, and they have consistency. They have found this level of consistency, consistent greatness that is necessary in a championship formula. So why we haven't talked enough about South Carolina, I do not know. But I think after a 40-point win over a USC team that was a 1 seed last season and that has one of the most electric freshmen in the country in Jazzy Davidson, I think deserves some love.
I think it's fool's gold to bet against Dawn Staley, right? There are certain coaches that continually, not only do they continually bring it, but there's certain coaches that just have an edge to everything they do. We've been lucky enough in our careers to get to talk to Coach several times. And every time I talk to her, I just realize part of what makes her great is that there is an edge to everything that she approaches. And you got to feel like she made it clear when they lost earlier this year, hey, the last time we lost in this situation, we turned around and won a national championship. The one team not surprised in the greatness of South Carolina would be South Carolina, because Dawn Staley knows how to make sure that her team believes in everything that they're doing. And this is a great basketball team. I struggle, though, to make sense of it all, because you mentioned it earlier. We'll get there. UConn, I mean, at one point in the first half, it was 60-something to 12, right? Like, when you talk about what UConn did getting Sweet 16 bound, I walked into that game thinking, all right, look, we get statement wins. Like, the fact that UCLA only wins by whatever 19, and it's like that feels like that's the tightest win. It feels like that's just a little bit like UCLA over Oklahoma State 87-68 feels tight because everybody else blew everybody else out. UConn went out and just absolutely embarrassed a team that belonged in the NCAA tournament. This wasn't a Duke taking on Nashville Auto Diesel College in men's college basketball. Like this, these were two teams deserving of being in the tournament. And then you've got all of a sudden such a slaughter that Syracuse's head coach is saying, hey, we can't be sent to this bracket. We can't always have to play at Campbell. Like it's unfair at this point. UConn is unfair, Caroline. So yes, I think you're absolutely right. We need to give shine and love to Dawn Staley. But also what UConn did last night was just a big, fat old reminder that UConn is out here just walloping everybody.
Important to point out, just because we give love to one team doesn't mean that we hate other teams. Okay, everybody, just take a chill pill. You say what UConn is doing is unfair. I would also add AZ Fudd hitting 8 threes. That's unfair. That's ridiculous. Like, this UConn team has not shown to have a single flaw. They're one of the most efficient offenses in the country. Defensively, they are tough. They are deep. They are so well coached. They don't shoot themselves in the foot. I would say the only thing, if I had to point out a potential fatal flaw for UConn, and I'm really, really grasping at straws here, I really have to dig deep. I think being battle-tested matters. South Carolina is battle-tested. South Carolina's had to play Texas, one of the best teams in the country, the 3rd overall seed, twice. Once in both in tournament settings, once in the Sphere and then once in the SEC championship game. UCLA has been battle tested. I would say, if not the SEC, the most dominant and competitive conference in women's college basketball, it is the Big Ten. I mean, look no further than what Michigan just did and what Minnesota is doing and how great Iowa has been playing, although we will get to Iowa in just a moment. UConn plays in the Big East, not competitive at all. And UConn, to their credit, did schedule difficult non-conference premier matchups. And it's not their fault that those teams just didn't really come to fruition as being the national powerhouses that we've grown accustomed to. USC. UConn had USC on their schedule, and USC very obviously not the same team without Juju Watkins than they are with Juju Watkins. Now USC is getting Juju Watkins back next season. Everyone should be terrified about that. UConn scheduled Tennessee, one of the greatest brands in this sport. Tennessee's not a great team this year. Tennessee didn't win a single game in the month of March for the first time in program history. UConn scheduled Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame we will get to in a minute as well. Notre Dame looks much more terrifying now than they did during the season when they were pretty inconsistent, right? Notre Dame is a 6th seed for a reason. So UConn has not gone through the same gauntlet or the level of competition that the other 1 seeds have. And might I even extend that to Vanderbilt and LSU and some of these other teams that could potentially, scratch and claw their way to an Elite 8 and to a Final Four and potentially to a national championship game. That is the one potential fatal flaw that if somebody tells me, hey, UConn doesn't win a national championship because of, I would say it is because they are not as battle tested as the rest of the field at the top.
Yeah, a lot of love for all of these teams. Let's get to some love for a huge upset we did get last night. It took double overtime, making sure that nobody gets any rest around here. Virginia, the 10 seed in the Sweet 16 for the first time since 2000 with a double overtime win where absolute just beast mode. You had Virginia players that were playing every single second of this thing into double overtime. It gave us all the drama. For anyone that says that, we're getting blowouts, man, we got a 10 seed making it to the Sweet 16. How about that?
We have a Cinderella. I mean, anybody who is saying that the Cinderella is dead, open your eyes. You're not paying close enough attention. We have Virginia, a 10 seed, the first 4 team ever to get to a Sweet 16 in the women's game. It has been an absolute, just treat to watch this Virginia team. And it starts with Kountry Johnson. She played all 50 minutes against Iowa. freaking warrior there. And Kountry Johnson, she had 28 points against Iowa. She's such a spark plug for this team. She was a leader. She kept her team focused whenever it felt like Virginia was starting to feel the, oh my gosh, we're actually about to do this. We're actually about to beat Iowa in their home arena, and we're actually about to go to the Sweet 16. Sometimes that can overtake a team. Sometimes that can add too much pressure and you start to crumble. Every time it felt like Virginia was kind of approaching that, Kountry Johnson would hit a huge shot, would hit a huge three. You would see her talking to her teammates on the sidelines and getting everyone refocused. Kountry Johnson is an absolute breakout superstar in this NCAA tournament, and it's been a total and complete blast to watch. Keep in mind, Virginia has played one more game than everyone else has. Keep in mind, a majority of this field in the Sweet 16 has been playing in their home arenas, has been sleeping in their own beds, has been making food in their own kitchens, and playing in front of their own fans. Virginia's been on the road for the last week. Virginia has been playing in away arenas. Virginia, although they may be feeling the fatigue a little bit, maybe that will catch up with them at some point. Virginia's also playing with house money and playing with all the momentum in the world, and that can be an incredibly dangerous thing once we get into the final days of March.
How many times do we see a 10 seed go to overtime and then find their way to a loss, right? Then we saw it go to double overtime, find a way. Like, I kept expecting at some point the fact that you have a 2 seed in Iowa that's just, at least a perception, going to be deeper and better. I kept expecting that to be the thing that would separate them, and it just didn't. And to your point, I just cannot stress this enough. Kountry Johnson played 50 minutes. 50. She played every single second of a double overtime game. And at the end of it, when they still needed points, she was the one coming up huge. I was stunned, Carolina. I was stunned because the number of times that Virginia had where they could have just fallen off and it was like, hey, hell of an effort. You gave them everything you had. You just couldn't get it done. I kept expecting that to be the story this morning, and instead, it absolutely wasn't. Kudos to Virginia for a massive win. Let's also give a little bit of love to players. There's one player I know you've got on your mind that we're all talking. We're not talking. There's a star in women's college basketball we are not talking enough about.
Hannah Hidalgo at Notre Dame. Ice Young and I were taping Hoops 360 last night. Check it out on the Yahoo Sports YouTube page and wherever you get your podcasts. And Ice mentioned, who was counting this team out? And I was like, me, I'm guilty. I'm the idiot in the room that picked Fairfield to beat Notre Dame in the first round of the tournament because I wasn't overly inspired about the brand of basketball that Notre Dame was playing down the stretch. And then I was quickly reminded that superstars do superstar things in the biggest moments of their sport. And that's exactly what Hannah Hidalgo is. 26 points, 13 rebounds, 8 steals. Let that sink in for a second. 8 steals yesterday against Ohio State, and that's an Ohio State team that is very defensive forward. That's an Ohio State team that has really built a brand on turning you over and not turning the basketball over, and Hannah Hidalgo put that thing down, flipped it, and reversed it. I think even more inspiring than Hannah Hidalgo's stat line, all the numbers, all the points yesterday, was how she looked when she was playing. Hannah Hidalgo was playing pissed off. She was angry. She was playing like she felt disrespected. She was playing like she had something to prove. Probably because she does. Probably because herself and Nia Livey, the head coach there in South Bend, were listening to the idiots like me, doofus. All of the people who were saying that Notre Dame couldn't do it. Well, what I forgot about, and that's on me, it was how Hannah Hidalgo can elevate the rest of her team. That Hannah Hidalgo can carry her team, I think, better than any other player in America. Like, there's no player who can elevate their team better than Hannah Hidalgo can. And for that, I think Notre Dame is incredibly intimidating and a scary team to face heading into the Sweet 16.
We normalize greatness sometimes. It's what we do, and we get used to things we've seen. Hannah Hidalgo came into this season with massive expectations. We talked a lot about it. I think Notre Dame came in with some big expectations, and the team itself has been a little bit inconsistent, and as a result, it feels like we've sort of forgotten about Hannah Hidalgo. You are right. It's also a statement how many stars there are that, frankly, we can even have that moment where we forget about it. But 26, 13, and 8 is the sort of statement stat line that reminds all of us, hey, There's greatness happening right now. Somebody that's about to impact the W still has plenty of impact in this tournament. Great to see Hannah come out and remind all of us just how great she is. Plenty more to come as we'll continue to break down the men's portion of the bracket. Also, Dan Wolken going to join us next hour. We'll get Dan's thoughts on everything happening on the men's side. But coming up, it was a big night in the association last night. We will break it all down just as we started to believe in the NBA and one team in particular. Turns out maybe we shouldn't have. We'll break it down next for you on Yahoo Sports Daily. All right, we're having some tech issues. We're going to hold on. We're having some tech issues. We'll just keep seeing how the tech gods go. All right, now we will see if we can get it. We'll break down some NBA action for you coming up next.
Well, one of the things, too, that keeps coming up, I keep hearing, and it kept coming up in response to my story after the hearing and during the hearing, is, hey, why doesn't he just go pro? Imagine being a college kid and making $5 million plus.
It's pretty easy. It's just money, guys. It's guaranteed money. This is probably, for most of these individuals, the last time they can make this much money playing the sport.
How can I sit here in one breath and say the sport is broken when it looks like the audience is more pleased with the sport than ever?
It's not broke. It's just we've been drinking out of a fire hose for 3 years. But it can't just be pay them, kick them off the team, next guy, next team. I worry about these kids' long-term health and what they're going to do with their lives when they're 26 and 27, when they have no roots at any university.
James Rodriguez is reportedly joining Minnesota United. The main thing as a fan of the league, I would just be excited to see him play. And then Minnesota against NYCFC, get to go see James. And what if that game is at Citi Field, bro? Queens is going to lose their mind.
It's going to go nuts. Astoria and Jackson Heights will be empty. There will be 3 Uruguayans, 4 Argentinians, and 6 Mexicans in all of Jackson Heights going, what the hell's going on? Where is everybody?
Admittedly, I'm a huge fan of Travis Hunter as a prospect. Do you have any sense of what his growth is going to be like, where he might be playing more and more, what his role is going to look like, especially on the offensive side?
The way he is, his personality, I think this injury in rookie year is only going to just make him better. He was starting to really get going on offense, and we were starting to click. So who knows what the rep count looks like, but I know he's a special receiver when he gets the ball in his hands.
We had a big night in the association, and we're going to break it down the way only this show can with meme faces all over the place. We're going to give you some reactions to some of the wild results that we got from the NBA last night. And let's start with the Lakers. I take a little pause there because we spent a lot of time the last couple of days. Yeah, we spent facts. That's just good business. But also, how much time have we spent praising, oh, my God, the Lakers, the Lakers, the Lakers. Their 9-game winning streak came to a surprising halt last night in Detroit to a cadeless Pistons team, 113-110. Boy, I thought Luka was going to have a shot at the winning shot or game-tying shot, but he just couldn't get it done. Lakers had a chance, couldn't force overtime. What meme explains this outcome to you, Caroline?
I mean, you mentioned it. We've been talking about this Lakers team. I have been cautiously optimistic about this Lakers team. Lakers, I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. Just when I felt like I could say, all right, you know what? Yeah, maybe this Lakers team's got a little something, something. You go out and you lose to a cadeless Detroit Pistons team. I was rooting for you. How dare you do that to us? How dare you? Now all of my trust issues have bubbled right back up to the surface about this team. How much fun we had on that, 9-game winning streak? How much we really felt like we could buy into this Lakers team. And let's be honest, basketball is more fun. Our jobs are more fun when the Lakers are good and the Lakers are relevant. And one loss to Detroit doesn't make you not good or irrelevant. But what it does is continue to remind us of the warts of this team that made me apprehensive about believing in them in the first place.
You have said it so well, and we were on the same page. I went with a very similar meme for my discourse here. You went rooting, I went more trust, and of course because ever the adult, somehow I realized I wanted to put SpongeBob in this thing. So I decided to go with the ever classic trust issues SpongeBob meme. That's where I am. I'm just trust issues, and look, this is just why you never. This is what happens when you date crazy girls. Like when you date crazy girls, at the beginning, you think everything's going to be fine. And then you realize they're crazy. And then you're like, okay, this isn't fine. And then all of a sudden things are normal again. You're like, no, everything's great, without realizing that, no, again, this is very volatile. We are going to have a volatile year. I keep going back to what JJ Redick said, though, and I think he's right. That wins and losses resonate more when you wear a Lakers jersey, right? So having a 9-game winning streak snapped is not the end of the world. You weren't going to win every game for the rest of the season. So on one hand, who cares? But on the other hand, it's the Lakers, which means if we're going to make every win a big deal, then we're also going to make the losses a big deal. Losing to the Pistons without Cade feels like a big deal. We could come into this segment and talk about what a big deal it is for the Pistons, frankly, to get a big win over a West team that looks like they could be a serious playoff contender without Cade. That could be the spin on all of this, is like, oh my God, look at what the Pistons managed to get done. We left them for dead without Cade. All of these wins are big. But no, it's not about the Pistons. It's about the Lakers, because 9 straight wins and Luka, and we're all sitting there saying this is going to be great. It's going to be epic. It's going to be fantastic. Luka was great last night, 32 points. LeBron, no points in the first half. LeBron had a regrettable first half to this game. The Lakers pick up the loss, and all I kept thinking in the process is, this is why I can't trust the Lakers, which makes me hate myself in this, and for as much as we go up and down. I feel like 3 times this week we're going to talk about the Lakers. One time I'll be happy. One time I'll be losing my mind. The next time I'll be happy. I don't know how to find the normal. So let's get to the next story out of the NBA. How about this? From a team that is inconsistent to a team consistently great. The Thunder, they get J-Dub back last night. They roll the 76ers. Williams, 18-6-4 after being out for what feels like 733 days. OKC wins their 12th straight. They are 57-15. What meme comes to mind when I lay out all of this OKC love?
I leaned on our lovely producer, Doug Branson, to customize a very popular meme for this one. So this was my reaction to OKC, not just last night, but to their winning streak. There you go. Whenever the Lakers are on a winning streak, it's like, ooh, the Lakers, are they going to win a championship? I want to watch this Lakers team. And it's like, hey, what about me, reigning NBA champions who are on a 12-game winning streak? And oh yeah, by the way, won 11 of them without one of our best players in J-Will. Like, human resources, no, get away from me. Why do we do this? Why do we do this with the Oklahoma City Thunder? We want so badly to grasp at just the teeny tiny bits of greatness that the Lakers will show us, but the Oklahoma City Thunder have shown us greatness every single night. The Oklahoma City Thunder have given us zero reason to think that they won't go back to back. The Thunder have set the standard in the West, and dare I say, the league in its entirety. And we're like, no thanks. Let's pay attention to this flawed Lakers team because they're doing something fun and shiny, and they're on a 9-game winning streak. That, oh yeah, by the way, got snapped last night.
Because to a fault, we are desperate to make every single night in the NBA interesting. And it's not interesting if we just accept that the Oklahoma City Thunder are inevitable, right? Like that's where it gets uninteresting. I went with this when I had to put it all together. This is an old man reference, but I think everybody gets it. And frankly, they're about to make the movie again. So I went with one of my favorite memes, one of my favorite moments from my childhood, straight He-Man. I have the power. That's where he raises the sword, and all of a sudden, Bob Cut regular guy becomes Bob Cut He-Man. All from the I have the power. I just want to remind the world that the power in the NBA this season belongs squarely to Oklahoma City. Now, this is where you could say, what about San Antonio? They managed to win 4. I don't care. I do not care. At the end of the day, we spent all last year saying, well, we can't trust OKC because we haven't seen them do it in the playoffs yet, which is exactly what they did. Then they went into the playoffs and they crushed everybody. We started this year by saying OKC could be the best team of all time. Injuries riddled them, and they still have the best record in the. I mean, they are crushing everybody, right? And they're on a 12-game win streak, and they just got their last star back to get them the chance over the course of the next, 30 days to get the rust knocked off and become the best version of themselves going into the playoffs. This is no longer an OKC or San Antonio or whoever against the field question. This is very simple. Oklahoma City is going to win the NBA championship barring injury. Unless there is some catastrophic thing we cannot predict, the OKC Thunder are going to be back-to-back champions, and y'all are going to be bored by it, and I don't care because at the end of the day, they have the power. They have the power on the court. They have the power off the court. They do not seem to be distracted by anything. And just because they're not interesting to social media and just because they don't rack up the same types of weird highlights that we love to watch from other teams does not make them any less of a juggernaut. They are 57-15 in a season where almost everything has gone wrong for them. So OKC is going to win the NBA championship. OKC is going to be the best team, and OKC is going to be a dynasty. We're making it cute the rest of the way, which is cool because we want to be interested. We want you to be interested, and we want to have interesting NBA conversations. It ain't interesting. All the power belongs to the Oklahoma City Thunder. All right, let's get to this one, though. Another team we've given some love to. How about the Nuggets, okay? We're big Nuggets believers here. We give them more love than most. They haven't lived up to expectations this season, but they could finish with the 6th seed because of it, right? The 6th seed. So what meme best describes what we might end up with? 3v6, which today would give us Lakers versus Nuggets. How do we react?
Sign me up for that, first of all. But you say we give the show, or we give here on the show, the Nuggets more love than others, which is exactly why I use this meme to describe the Nuggets right now. Like, the Nuggets are the girlfriend in blue. Literally any other storyline in the West is the girl in red. Because it's like, look, like the Nuggets, they are consistent. Jokic is a superstar. Jokic is good for a triple-double on any given night. The Nuggets have won a championship. They've been here before. This is not rare air. So it's like, it's consistent. You know, it's a good, compatible, reliable companion. But like, ooh, look at Wemby. And like, ooh, look at the Thunder. And ooh, the Lakers. It's like every other storyline feels more intriguing, feels more interesting, and it feels like it grabs the attention, not just for us, but of the general basketball public. And we've talked about that on this show before, that like I've seen the greatness of the Nuggets, and the best of the Nuggets I think could contend with anyone in the NBA. But why can't I fully trust this team? And so that's it's almost my feelings with the Nuggets too. It's like I want so badly to believe in you, but like I'm just getting so distracted by so many other things that the league might offer. And I think that's also, Jokic's interests. Like he's holding hands with basketball, but he's turning his head around like, ooh, horses.
The funny thing is, I feel like the Nuggets all year have been in some version of cruise control. I still believe the Nuggets have an extra gear, but if you give me this matchup, by the way, I've always wondered in the meme you picked how the Plain Jane girl feels about being the Plain Jane girl. I don't know. But in this matchup, for me, the meme is simple. It's chaos, right? Like if we get 3 versus 6, chaos. Because this is where, are we rooting for the best basketball team or the best story? Let's, again, just be honest and transparent at a level that makes everybody, open their eyes here. The Lakers advancing is a better story for ratings. It's a better story for clicks. It's a better story for us every single day. The Nuggets are a better basketball team. So to me, even though the Lakers have been hot this year, I think the Nuggets would absolutely wipe the floor with the Lakers. I think we're talking an easy series for the Nuggets. I'm picking the Nuggets right now. If it's 3-6, Lakers have it. I'm picking the Nuggets to win this series, and I think win this series pretty effectively, which then is going to raise this great question of like, how do we feel about that? Give me the Nuggets in the first round. They're not scary anymore. Okay, let's see how that works in the actual playoffs when you have to actually play defense. I don't know. Against Jokic. I don't trust the Lakers defensively to be able to stop the best man on the court in this game, which is going to be it. So at the end of the day, I love the chaos of what we're going to get. All right, we'll keep breaking down the chaos. Coming up, Dan Wolken going to join us. We'll get his thoughts on the chaos from the NCAA tournament so far and what it means for the rest of what we're going to see coming up next.
Who is your first player to team fit that you absolutely love?
Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end of Oregon, to the Chiefs. And this was basically a post-combine reaction, basically Vernon Davis style numbers athletically. And so I think it was validating to see kind of him put those numbers up athletically, speed, explosion, change of direction. He feels like a player that is not going to drop very far in this draft, especially in a draft where there aren't a ton of blue chip players.
Do you feel pressure that this is America's birthday, this is the White House, you have to represent?
Hell yeah. I do feel pressure. I feel pressure that, I got to go out there and represent for the United States, and I got to go out there and I feel like I'm going to be expected to go out there and win this fight. I'll probably be a favorite. There's pressure right there too. I put pressure myself. I need to finish. It's been too long.
Mike Washington, speed score wonder, good size, just downhill in a hurry, but just can never quite make that safety miss unless he just runs past him.
He blew up because of the combine, and people were like, wow, who is this? And he has everything that, sleeper running backs people fall in love with, the size, the speed. There's usually a handful of guys like this. In this year's class, there's actually not a ton of guys like this that maybe boosted his stock a round or so.
The Dallas Mavericks, are they still taking Cooper Flagg, Corey?
He is legitimately, as a 6'8" wing who does everything at a high level. Shows up every day, competes his ass off.
The way his handle has improved since high school to Duke to now suggests that this guy can be a MVP candidate, not just a multi-time All-Star as a role player, a high-end star role player, but a mega star.
Frank Schwab tweets out, really, really good stuff from Dan Wolken and Jeff Eisenberg on what's driving the death of Cinderella in the NCAA tournament. Stunning how much the tournament has changed in just a few years. And it's not a good change, though probably inevitable. That's a great compliment and really warranted from the work of Dan Wolken, who always does incredible work with us. And he joins us right now. So, Dan, let's just start there. Why do you believe Cinderella is no more? And more importantly, who's to blame?
Well, there's a lot of different factors in this, and certainly you can look at the transfer portal and NIL environment as reasons why the mid-major ranks overall have been drained of talent. There's no doubt anybody who is at one of these smaller schools who shows the ability to play at a higher level will get big offers, and that is certainly hurting the mid-majors overall. But the tournament is a one-off, and you're talking about who can beat a different team, a more talented team, on a different day. And in this particular argument, I look at conference realignment because the NCAA tournament, 13, 14, 15, 16 seeds, where you get those mega upsets, who those teams are matters. And those are the automatic bid teams from the smaller conferences. Conference realignment has dragged up a lot of the best programs from the mid-majors and low majors. And so when the SEC and Big Ten expand, that impacts the American Conference and the Mountain West and some of those leagues. That impacts from the A-10, the Horizon, because they lost their teams moving up a level. So you play that out all the way to the end of the line, and these conferences that get automatic bids to the tournament are just weaker now than they were. They're sending worse teams as their conference champions. And so I think conference realignment is now really showing up in this thing.
Also want to touch on another thing that you shared on Twitter, your feelings about what UNC should do with head coach Hubert Davis. Let's say, and we have heard that they were having conversations about his future. As of this morning, we don't have definitive information about what Hubert Davis's future does look like. But let's say North Carolina does move on from Hubert Davis. What's a name that makes sense to come in and get North Carolina back into championship contention?
Well, I think the person that they will and should initially target is Tommy Lloyd from Arizona. I don't know that they will be able to get him. I don't know if he wants to move out to the East Coast. He's been kind of a West Coast guy his entire coaching career. But obviously you look at the job he's done at Arizona, and they've got good resources there, but not anything like what you would have at North Carolina, including the brand, including the financial backing. They are going to be invested in winning at the highest level there, and it's probably a top 3 job in the country. So I think if you can go get somebody like him. TJ Otzelberger's another name who I think would make a lot of sense, who's in that younger demographic who you could envision as the North Carolina coach for the next 10 to 15 years. And then maybe somebody like Mark Byington from Vanderbilt would also make a lot of sense. But it'll be interesting to see. I think they'll get a A-list or A-minus list type of candidate, assuming they do move on from Hubert Davis, which is what I think ultimately will happen.
All right, so speaking of coaches, let's get to some of the coaches still coaching the Sweet 16. The East is just giving us, man, the brands in the East out of those matchups, when you have Hurley versus Izzo, obviously, on one side, and then you got Pitino and Shire, who stepped right into the shoes of a legend. Do you remember a bracket this stacked, a region this stacked when we got to the Sweet 16 with brand power from coaches?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's happened before, but obviously recency bias will tell us that this is the greatest ever. I'm not sure that's the case, but certainly when you look at the names, the national championships won among that foursome, and I think everybody believes John Shire will ultimately join that club at Duke sooner or later. It's very, very impressive, and it is going to create some drama this weekend because, I think both of those games you could make an argument for either team, and that's kind of what you want when you get down to the Sweet 16. You don't want these one-sided 10, 12-point spreads. You want games that are going to be competitive at the highest level, and I think that's what you've got here. And certainly the coaching matchups are going to factor in because everybody is going to try to outsmart the other guy. And so it'll be fascinating to see, especially with St. John's. I mean, that's a fairly limited team offensively, but they're able to play in a way that disrupts really good teams. So I think that's going to be a huge test for Duke, especially, and a lot of their younger guys.
How do you see this side of the bracket panning out?
Yeah, well, ultimately I picked Duke to come through that, but when you look at the fact that they would have to beat a St. John's and potentially UConn or Michigan State, you can envision a scenario where just their youth, they didn't play great last weekend in either of those games in Greenville, but they got through. They're going to have to level up. There's no doubt about that. Because St. John's, even though it got shaky against Kansas in the last 5 minutes, they were really, really good in that game. And obviously UConn, Dan Hurley has won the tournament twice in recent years. So he's got a team that's primed to do it. And I know that Big East folks are going to have their eye on potential UConn St. John's. Michigan State also could win. I mean, Tom Izzo in March, right? So I think it's anybody's ball game, but I'm just going to default to Duke, but I'm not going to be surprised if any of the four end up winning this thing.
All right, so let's take a look at the West then. Arizona there. Who's the biggest threat to them to making it to the Final Four?
Yeah, well, the only thing with Arizona and Arkansas is Darius Acuff, right? Darius Acuff has been phenomenal in the tournament. He's the kind of player we've seen come along in March Madness many, many times who can put a team on his back and score a bunch of points and control the game with the ball in his hands. And that's a little bit of a scary thought to try to scheme up against. But I do think if you're Arizona, you lean on what you've had all season, which is strong interior play, great defense. You're probably the most physical team in the tournament at this point. And Arkansas has not been incredibly efficient against those big frontline rugged teams. That's kind of their weak point. So I do think in that sense, it's a good matchup for Arizona. And I think if they get by Arkansas, they're going to win this region. But again, Darius Acuff, if he goes for 38 points or something like that, that changes the equation.
I do want to move on to the Midwest region because we're talking a lot about the East, and rightfully so. The star power, the brand recognition on that side of the bracket. I think the Midwest region, though, is incredibly underrated. You've got Michigan and Alabama, Tennessee, and Iowa State in the Sweet 16. Of those four teams on that side of the bracket, who has impressed you the most so far this tournament?
Well, I think at least so far, I'll give it to Iowa State because they've been able to get through with some injury issues. They lost their best player 3 minutes into the first game with, I believe, an ankle injury or a foot injury. And so they're going to have to try to get that healed. And I don't know, we've still got a few days before they're going to have to play. I'm going to head up to Chicago for those games. And so I'm sure we'll find out more on Thursday about his status. But, you know, they really smacked Kentucky in the second half of that game. And they have a system. They have a style of play. They're so committed on the defensive end. It's a great scheme that TJ Otzelberger uses. You don't really have any moment to breathe on either offense or defense when you're playing Iowa State. So that'll be an interesting challenge for Tennessee. And obviously Michigan's been good as well. But I think just in terms of who's impressed me, for Iowa State to be able to get through as easily as they have to this point without Jefferson, I think says a lot.
Houston is in the South at this point, so obviously, but they're in Houston for these Sweet 16 games. So what advantage do you think home court essentially, it's not their home court, but it's right down the road, makes in this region?
Yeah, it should. I mean, I remember covering Houston a few years ago in a regional in San Antonio, which is pretty close to Houston, and they took over that building, and it was definitely like a road game for Arizona, who they played in the Sweet 16 that year. And so in theory, it should be a big advantage for them. But at the same time, you look at what Nebraska fans did last weekend in Oklahoma City. They took over that arena. It was like a home game for Nebraska against Vanderbilt in the second round. Probably made the difference, honestly, in them winning that game. And so their fans are motivated. This is the first time they've ever been to the Sweet 16. As we all know, they had not won an NCAA tournament game ever before this tournament started. So they're going to be extremely motivated to go buy up those tickets. So I think it's probably a pretty good weekend to be a ticket broker down in Houston.
I want to stick there for a moment. And yeah, to your point, I mean, Nebraska fans, they will travel in droves. They will show up. We have Nebraska, a team that had never won an NCAA tournament game until this season, and now they're going to the Sweet 16. We have Iowa, a 9 seed, taking down Florida, the reigning national champions, a 1 seed, a team that frankly I had winning the national championship yet again this year. We started this segment talking about how Cinderellas are dead, yet we have a 9 seed Iowa take down a 1 seed in Florida and Nebraska team that has never been here before. So are Cinderellas dead, or do they just look different?
Yeah, it's a really good point, and it's something that I think a lot of people in college sports probably need to start reckoning with a little bit. One of the issues I've identified for a long time is that Division I basketball is just too big. I can't remember the exact number of teams we're up to in Division I, but I know it's like at least 360 at this point. And that was, to me, not sustainable in terms of a competitive standpoint, even before NIL and revenue sharing and all of these other things, because really you're not playing the same sport. If you're in the SEC and the Big Ten and say the SWAC, right? You're just, yeah, you're technically in the same division, but you're not really competing for the same thing. So look, I know nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to talk about it, but Division I could probably be cut in half or so. And what you would end up having is a little bit more concentration of talent in that top level. And that, to me, would fuel a little bit more upset potential among that bottom 100 teams, right? If your Division I is more like 200, I think that's what you would want, is that bottom 100 can at least reasonably be in touch with the top 100. Right now, you're not getting that. So you have to settle for, okay, and Iowa finished in the middle of the Big Ten Conference. They were, I think, a 500 team in that league, so they get seeded 9th. So they're all of a sudden your Cinderella, even though they're paying their coach, $5-6 million a year, and they've got 10-11 million in NIL. It doesn't really compute, I think, for most people. It's not the way we grew up watching this thing, but it's probably more realistically the way it is now.
Yeah, Cinderellas just look different. We got to accept that at some point. All right, Dan, we love talking to you because we get to talk about so many different things with you. I know we've done a lot of NCAA tournament, but there was a breaking news today I had to get your sights on because you also cover golf for Yahoo. Obviously, big news today. Tiger Woods will play in match 2 of the best-of-3 TGL Finals on Tuesday night per ESPN. This decision comes after the Jupiter Lynx lost 6-5 on LA, to LA in the opener. So they're on the brink of elimination now tonight. He will return to a version of golf for the first time since 2024. Dan, your reaction?
Yeah, I mean, I guess good for him. I honestly don't know who is really interested in watching Tiger play at this point. I guess people are. I am not. I saw the best of Tiger. I was fortunate enough to be alive and old enough and a golf fan through the whole thing. I saw the 1997 Masters all the way up through the last Masters in 2019. So I don't need any more from this guy, right? You gave me every thrill I could have possibly had watching golf. Now, when Tiger goes out and plays, and there's just so much conversation about whether he's going to play the Masters, and I guess that's interesting to some people, but the guy just is out there kind of hobbling around, and he's not the old Tiger, and honestly, he can't really compete anymore with the best guys in the world, and I don't have a lot of need to watch that. If you want to go play TGL and kind of hit a ball into a screen and play computer golf for a couple hours, like, cool, that's great. Like, I'm fine with that, and I may even watch it. But this idea that, okay, he's going to use this to go out and walk 36 holes at Augusta and miss the cut, I don't have a lot of interest in that, and I hope that's not what he's doing, but I'm afraid of what he is doing, because he just has this maniacal desire to still compete, even though we all know his body is way past the point where that's possible.
And I think that's part of the reason why he's so great is he is a literal maniac. And I know that we'll all overreact to anything that Tiger Woods does, as we do, and look rightfully so. And I can see it now. If Tiger Woods comes in and hits a clutch shot in TGL, automatically the conversation will become, can Tiger Woods do this in Augusta? Can Tiger Woods do this at the Masters? What would you say to those people who might get their hopes up after watching Tiger in TGL?
The guy's just been through too much physically, and there was more surgeries last year, and every time he tries to come back from one of these injuries or the leg reconstruction, like, he drags himself around the course and is able to play, but it looks painful, and in some ways it's painful just to watch, because it looks like a guy who is struggling to do something that nobody really needs to see him do anymore. And like, Augusta National is one of the most demanding courses physically, I think, in the world. I'm certainly not an expert on that, but I've been to Augusta several times. And like, when you walk up and down those hills, it's hard. It's hard on your body, especially when you're older, especially when you've been injured. And the idea that he can do that for 72 holes and be competitive, it's just not been proven to be anywhere within the realm of his reality the last several years. Maybe if he was playing in a golf cart, he could get out and swing the club and still hit some great shots because he knows how to play that course. But it's the walking part, and his whole body, his lower body, has just been through hell. So I don't think he can do it in a way that allows him to look like Tiger Woods, but he may want to do it for other reasons. I don't really know. I just can't really figure out why at this stage of the game that is all that important to him.
Yeah, what I can't figure out is how to not overreact tomorrow, but that's the inevitability. Dan, we appreciate you. Great job covering the tournament as always. Thanks for your expertise. Thanks for hanging out with us this morning.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks.
Great stuff from Dan. Coming up, from one legend to another, Kevin Durant passes Michael Jordan. We'll tell you about it, what it means, coming up next.
What are some things about the Detroit Pistons that we on the outside might not know?
The culture, when I walked into this, the culture for me was pretty impressive. The way the players kind of come to bat for each other. And, Isaiah Stewart is not a guy off the court that is like an angry human being. In that Charlotte game, it was all he was saying in the locker room was like, I'm going to have you guys back. That's what I do. For me, it's impressive to see just how together everyone is and, the culture that they've continued to build.
I have Sadiq at the top like you. That's not the surprise. Sam Roush from Stanford, who had the big combine, unlike a lot of college tight ends that are productive, he actually, in my opinion, is playing the position like a pro right now. I love how he rumbles after the catch. I like Sam Roush quite a bit, Nate, because I just love that I could put him on the line of scrimmage, and I think he's tough as hell.
do want to ask you about your teammate Jalen Coker. Can you kind of tell the people about Jalen, the person, the player, everything in between?
The people love him, the teammates love him, the coaches love him. And you see, as the year went on, how much faith, how much trust, how much belief that Bryce has in him, that the coaching staff has in him. I mean, he can do it all. He has good routes, very physical. He plays inside, outside. I mean, he does pretty much everything, man. And the Panthers definitely got a gem.
We've talked a lot, in fairness, about guys like Joe Burrow that are frustrated with losing. You know that experience. What advice would you give somebody that is so premier as a talent, but is with a franchise that can't seem to find a way to maximize it?
There's no guarantee for any of us, right, at the start of the season, you're going to end up with a championship. If you're an elite athlete, you embrace that challenge, such a special, unique thing, right? Because the best players in the league don't necessarily always get there, but generally the best teams do.
All-time points scored. Number 5, KD. Number 6, Michael Jordan. Yet again, a little bit higher up the list, and it gets us to a conversation about KD, particularly for all of his greatness, trying to figure out where he sort of falls in the lexicon of NBA players, Caroline, because this is what gets really difficult. The simple question is KD going to be a top 10 player of all time? We're talking about a player that, even though the Rockets lost last night, again, went off, he was amazing, as KD consistently is. I said on this show last week that I'm not sure he moves the needle at the same level. It doesn't mean he's any less great. When you talk about number 5 in points scored, 32,294, you talk about being above MJ. Is at this point there a clear path in your mind to making KD one of the top 10 of all time in the NBA?
I do think that part of being considered top 10 all time is also, you have to keep in mind impact, a measure of impact on the game. And so when I think about the most impactful players who have ever played the game of basketball, the players that come to mind for me are Michael Jordan and LeBron James and Kobe Bryant and Wilt Chamberlain. I don't know if KD has made the same level of impact right now to warrant, being in the history books and honored forever as one of the 10 greatest players to ever play this sport. Because if we want to talk about the most impactful players right now, is KD in the top 3 of players right now? So even though KD might have the numbers to be considered a top 10 player of all time, when we're all doing this at the water cooler or sharing a couple of cold pops with our friends and we're going through our top 10s, is KD a unanimous pick? Because there are players that are unanimous picks, and we all know them. I don't think KD would be considered a top 10 for everyone. Now, another thing that's important to point out, we were having the classic Michael Jordan, LeBron debate last week, and you mentioned how I think generation and when you grow up, that all plays a factor for who your GOAT is. Because I don't remember watching Michael Jordan play. Like, I grew up with LeBron James. So people in my generation might say LeBron, because people in my generation either don't remember or weren't even alive to watch Michael Jordan play. I think that also comes into play here as well. My dad probably wouldn't say that KD is a top 10 player of all time, but my 21-year-old little cousin probably would. Generation matters, and the generation of basketball in which you grew up, I think, is a factor into this as well. For me, I don't think KD would be a top 10, but I also, if somebody thinks that he is, I don't have an issue with that.
That's well said by you, because certainly for the rising generation, how can he not be, right? And what gets difficult for me is that the minute I saw the question, is he a top 10 player? I immediately thought, okay, well, if I was making my top 10, and to your point, age matters in this, right? So I grew up watching Magic and Larry and Michael. So those 3 are just surefire, right? And I was at an age where watching every second of Kobe and Shaq became, a part of life. So all of a sudden, just in 5 seconds, there are 5 of the top 10 that I don't think anyone could ever supplant for me. They'll never get out of the way. Now, I haven't even mentioned the likes of Kareem, right? I was obviously, as a kid, it was old Kareem. It was the end of Kareem, but still, I watched all that impact, right? So I'm not old enough to have watched Wilt or Bill Russell, but certainly I've been told for generations about their greatness. You can go back and watch the clips. I just don't even know if you watch the clips, if you really understand what you're watching, because the game was played so differently then. So, without even hesitating. If you just go through LeBron, Michael, Magic, Larry, Kareem, Shaq, Kobe, I get to 7 right there before I've even like, so 7 of my top 10. Now I got 3 spots available. Then you start factoring in Tim Duncan and like, where do we put up? There's just so many. Where do we put Patrick Ewing? Where do you put all these different guys that were instrumental in different chapters of my fandom watching him? It's not that KD is not an amazing player. It's just that top 10, and this is where one of the other sort of hills I die on a lot, Caroline, is that top 10 doesn't really mean top 10. It just means feels like top 10, right? So, like, it's easy to sit there and say, that guy's a top 10 quarterback, and then you're actually asked to make your list, and you find out they're 12, right? Like, so is KD a top 10 type player in NBA history? Yes. If right now I had to sit down and make a list of my top 10, is he on my top 10? No. So it's an interesting curiosity. Like, there's nuance to this. 2 things can be true. There's also nuance to the MVP conversation, which came up yesterday as we had Wemby kind of getting into the conversation a little bit. Now, in fairness, Wemby was asked specifically if he thinks about the MVP. So when he made his MVP case, he didn't just sit down at the mic and say, I am the MVP. He sat down when asked if he thinks about the MVP and said, look, yeah, I do. And I think I have a case. Defense is 50% of the game. I believe I'm the most impactful player defensively in the league. He also mentioned their success against OKC and his success offensively, not just in points scored. Caroline, I'm not surprised at all. If you ask Wemby if he thinks about the MVP and does he believe he's the MVP, what's Guy going to say? No, but I do like the fact that Wemby is coming out and reminding us that this is a bigger conversation than just who's leading the league in scoring.
First of all, I don't mind at all that Wemby says, yeah, I think about it. Because I think the typical answer that we're all accustomed to hearing is, we want to win a championship. It's a team game, not worried about personal achievements. And if that's how you feel, then great. That's a great mindset as well. But for Wemby to be like, yeah, you know what? I do consider, or I do think about MVP because that's going to be part of my legacy. I've got no problem with that. Now, Wemby makes a very, very fair case. Now, look, Wemby is one of the best, if not the best defensive players in the entire NBA. The reason why we view the Spurs as such an intimidating team in the West is because of Wemby. And I think there's a certain level of MVP that is just something that doesn't show up on a box score, and it's the way that a certain player can elevate not just his own team, but everyone else around him. And I look at the All-Star game as the perfect example for how Wemby can elevate everyone on the court. And Anthony Edwards talked about it. He said, when we saw the level of care that Wemby played with, we all started to ratchet up our level of competition. Like, Wemby was pissed off when Team World lost games. And most of the time we're accustomed to in the All-Star game, like, hey, look, yeah, we want to win, but whatever, this doesn't count. We don't really care. Wemby cared. And everyone else on the court started to care even more because he set the standard for the level of competition. I think that's an MVP kind of DNA you can't necessarily see in a box where you have to see it on the court. So I think that Wemby has a very, very strong case for MVP. But I think SGA is the best player on the best team in basketball. Case closed. Like, that's your MVP right there.
I get so caught up on this sometimes. I wish I could go back in time and invent a time machine and go back to whoever invented the phrase MVP and just slap them, because this should have been so much easier. Just give me best. Just give me like league's best player. The problem with MVP, most valuable, is that we all define value differently. So to me, like, who's the best player in the NBA? I mean, if I walked into a gym and every NBA player was sitting there and I could pick any one of them to be on my team to run 5s in a gym, I'm picking Wemby. I'm picking Wemby because I think he's an absolute nightmare to try and match up with anybody. He's going to give you, he has as many games this season with 25 points and 5 blocks, 10, as the rest of the league has combined, right? So when you talk about hitting it on both sides, like, Wemby does that over and over and over again. He's a matchup nightmare for everybody. Nobody knows how to shut him down. To me, I think that right now, if I'm picking one guy, it's going to be Wemby. What gets tough is that most valuable really has such different meaning to different teams and different players and different voters, right? So SGA being the best player on the best team does have value to it. Luka may only play on one side of the ball, but boy, does it have value to what the Lakers are suddenly doing. So I can understand the MVP case for everybody. And I'm not an MVP voter. If I oversimplify and just ask myself, walk into the gym today and I can pick one player, who's that going to be? It's Wemby. So I have no problem with Wemby coming out and reminding us exactly what he does to the game and exactly why he has a huge case to be the MVP. I also think it's a beautiful thing. We've said this many times. Here we are in the middle. Like, look, there are certain shows that I do not discredit at all that do a great job of yelling at each other and reminding everybody that these barbershop sort of debates are great. We fall somewhere in the middle on this. And Caroline, I will continue to say the fact that SGA, Wemby, Luka are all young and are all MVPs. Like we may be exhausted with the concept of Tiger back in golf. We don't have to worry about LeBron in the NBA because the NBA has all these young guys right now that deservedly are in the MVP conversation. I think it's kind of beautiful that you can sit down and have a debate where somebody truly believes it's Luka, somebody else believes it's SGA, and somebody else believes it's Wemby. None of us are right. None of us are wrong. All of us are a little each.
Well, this isn't something that's new. Let's look at the NFL. This past year, it was Matthew Stafford or Drake May. The year before, flip a coin, and you could have gotten Lamar Jackson 50% of the time and Josh Allen 50% of the time. That's what makes these leagues great. If it was such an obvious unanimous pick, well, then the postseason wouldn't be as intriguing or as fun because there's just one player that's better than everybody else.
Yeah, it's a magical year in the NBA. We don't all have to see it the same, but also I love that we can bring a little nuance to the conversation. We're going to bring nuance to a big issue in Major League Baseball coming up next. The season's right around the corner, and some of the decisions happening right now not only impact this year, but years to come. We'll tell you about it next.
Criticism like that from a coach in the moment, how are you feeling when that's happening and the film's on screen?
Yeah, man, I think it's you listen more to the message and not the tone of the message. I mean, I think it's actually better to get called out than to not, because it shows not only like you're not worried about getting your feelings hurt. Like they're not worried about hurting my feelings. And that's something I love about our coach. Like he's not really worried about hurting your feelings. He's going to tell you, shoot it to you straight. And for me, like I've always thrived under coaches that do that.
We are ranking the biggest robberies in MLS histories, the players who looked at their team owners and said, thanks for the cash, and gave absolutely nothing in return. If your team is on this list, we are very, very sorry. Danielson, FC Dallas. His contract was for $879,000.
If you're watching this, look at his photo. He don't even look interested to be there in the photo.
With 10 appearances, he effectively got nearly $100,000 per game.
I'm sitting there watching Unreal, and they're talking about you in WWE at the Royal Rumble, just being thrown into the ring. You ever getting back in the ring for one of those opportunities again after that injury?
Man, I don't know. I mean, we got WrestleMania coming up, so you maybe see me in there, you maybe not. I'm just not trying to get beat up, but we'll see. We'll see. Like I got beat up too much times. My body can't take that anymore.
Little teaser from the one and only Nate Diaz, unfinished business. And then he expanded on that on Twitter and said, I'll see you soon. I'm coming.
What about Dustin? Dustin versus Nate. Big fight. That could be a co-main or a main for a big fight card.
One that we always wanted to see.
One that Dustin has said, that'll get me out of retirement. The UFC could use him more than ever. They need stars now.
If a player is on an MLB roster for 172 days, then he gets 1 year of service. There are 187 days in an MLB season. You need 6 years of service to be free agent eligible. So if the Pirates wait 16 days into the season, Griffin only gets 171 days of service, giving the Pirates an extra year. This is all an explanation on part of why Konnor Griffin, the young phenom for the Pirates, will not be on the opening day roster. Some think it's manipulation, but let's be certain. So we're going to bring in an expert on the subject. I found this wildly interesting. I pitched this to everybody because I think it's incredible manipulation. And immediately we said we need the Barbercast concept on this. Jake, what do you see when I lay this out for you? How do you respond?
It's complicated, brother. Konnor Griffin is a generational talent. That is a truth. Konnor Griffin might not be ready for the big leagues. That is a truth. For all of the hype and the attention that he has gotten in spring training and the highlights of him hitting home runs, Konnor Griffin didn't have a great spring. Now, it is a small statistical sample size, but he did not blow the doors off the joint to the point where the Pirates had to put him on the big league roster. He has not played a baseball game at AAA. He was 19 years old. I think it is completely defensible to have him start the year in the minor leagues. Now, is he better than whoever they're going to start at shortstop for the first couple of weeks? Maybe, maybe not. But the idea that you're going to somehow sidetrack this guy's development in order to shoehorn him onto the big league roster right now, do the Pirates deserve the benefit of the doubt? No, because they manipulated Paul Skeens and ended up getting burned for it. But I think in this specific instance, I understand why they did what they did.
That was kind of my point. Like, before we all put our tinfoil hats on and start waving our fists at the Pittsburgh Pirates, and there are plenty of reasons to wave our fists at the Pittsburgh Pirates. I know that Konnor Griffin has 4 home runs on 7 hits, but also he's hitting under 200. So maybe let's just add a little bit of context to that conversation. It's enough Pirate talk for me, though. I do want to talk about my team, if I can indulge in my own fandom. JJ Weatherholt has made the St. Louis Cardinals opening day roster, so I need like something to get me excited for this baseball season. How excited should St. Louis fans be about JJ Weatherholt?
How excited should St. Louis fans be in general is a different question
Period.
than how excited should they be in JJ Weatherholt. So Weatherholt is going to be the bright spot of this team. He was drafted 7th overall a couple years ago, but a lot of people saw him as the top prospect in that draft. Fell a little bit because he had some injury issues leading up to the draft, but he has performed at every way in the minor leagues. He is a special player, a special hitter, and a really just good dude. I've gotten to know JJ a little bit over the last couple of years, and he is very intelligent, very down to earth. I love that he went to Mars High School in Pennsylvania, and they have like space themed jerseys and whatnot. But Cardinals fans, it is going to be a weird year, a long year. You are used to winning. You will probably not get a lot of that in 2026, but at least you get to watch JJ Weatherholt, who will certainly be the face of the next good Cardinals ball club.
From your lips to God's ears, Jake. Please, we need it. I want to continue on the theme, though, of some young prospects. One of your favorite young prospects will make the opening day roster for the Mets. That's Carson Bench. Why should Mets fans be excited about him? And why was calling him up this early the right decision for the Mets?
So it's interesting because I don't think Bench was going to make the roster on opening day. Mike Tauchman, who had bounced around the big leagues for a bit, looked like he maybe had the advantage to take that spot, and then this week had an injury in spring training, and so the Mets just kind of defaulted to giving the job to Bench. That doesn't mean he's not ready. This is a different situation than Konnor Griffin. Bench is a college player who came into pro ball from Oklahoma State. Griffin is a high school kid, and so he's a little bit more advanced at this point in his career in terms of some of the finer details maybe than Griffin is. He is a very elite hitter in the box. The power will come. He reminds me a little bit of like Christian Yelich before he went totally bananas with the Brewers. He might grow into that type of power. It's not there right now. He's going to be a really, really special player for the Mets in right field. Remember Juan Soto moving from right to left this year. Bench will slot in for the Mets in the opening day lineup.
With all this talk about young guys and trying to figure out who's up and who's not, the days of service loophole, things like that impact even vet players throughout the course of the league. You think these are things that will be addressed during the upcoming negotiations?
That's the billion-dollar question, my friend. I think it will all be addressed. I think they might address us. I mean, it's going to get messy and it's going to get ugly. The league wants to implement a salary cap, right? That is the overarching theme of the upcoming labor negotiations that we'll see at the end of this regular season. The players are more content with the status quo. This is a little bit different than the last time around when kind of the players entered with maybe the upper hand and the league was playing defense and the players were playing offense. It's a little flipped now. Part of that is because of the Dodgers and the salary cap gobbledygook. But yeah, I do think that, everything will be on the table, dude. Like entrees, appetizers, desserts, you name it. If there's something in the sport of baseball, it will be discussed this winter.
I want to go back to something that you just mentioned, the difference between a guy coming up from college and Carson Bench versus a Konnor Griffin coming up from the high school ranks. Are you seeing a change in trend in the path that prospects might take? Like, of course, Konnor Griffin is an out of this world prospect. It was a no-brainer that he would go directly from high school to the major leagues. But are you seeing more players opt to go to college than straight out of high school?
I would say slightly yes, and NIL has to do with that. Now, NIL in baseball is obviously lower on a raw dollar sense than it is in basketball and in football, just because there are fewer eyeballs on the sport. But the money is not nothing at some of these bigger programs like LSU and Mississippi State, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that because the college programs have gotten good enough at player development now, that they can advertise that to a player on top of the experience. Now, the most talented high school kids are still going to go to school. Or excuse me, the most talented high school kids are still going to go into professional baseball because the money's good and teams are willing to shell out, $3, $4, $5 million worth of a bonus. But if you're a guy who's like, hey, late round high school kid, $800,000 bonus, or you can go to college and get, $400,000 from a Power 4 school, it's like, why wouldn't you take that? And we see that at the top of this year's draft with a kid named Rock Chalowski, who was like a late first round talent coming out of Arizona high school a couple years ago. He ends up going to UCLA, and now he's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft in 2026. It's a really interesting question, and it is a really interesting dynamic. And I think NIL and the portal is only going to continue to push more kids towards college baseball. What MLB really wants at the end of the day is to kind of rip out a level of the minor leagues and use college as effectively a way to develop players where they don't have to pay for it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that anytime owners can save money, they're always looking to save money. Come on, like that.
Oh yeah,
End
baby.
of the day, if they can have somebody else do their work for them, they will. All right, I know you're working on a piece, top 50 people that will impact this season. Any sneak peek names? Is there somebody off our radar that should be on our radar?
I am very interested in Bryce Harper this year. He's probably on your radar. Duh. He's Bryce Harper. But I think this is a very important season for him. At the end of last year, his president of baseball operations, the head honcho of the Philadelphia Phillies, Dave Dombrowski, in a press conference to the media, effectively said that he doesn't think Bryce Harper is an elite player anymore. You know who didn't take that too kindly? Bryce Harper. Now, statistically speaking, that might be true. Harper had something of a down year in 2025. He is kind of inching into his mid to late 30s now at this point. And the question is very pertinent. Is Bryce Harper still an elite baseball player? He has been, in our minds, an elite baseball player since he was 15 years old. Is he going to rage against the dying of the light? Is he going to play deep into October to make the Philadelphia Phillies World Series champions? It would be his first ring. Bryce Harper has never won a World Series. He's clearly chasing that. I am fascinated by everything this guy does, and this year is no different.
Well, you are always a delight, and we appreciate your knowledge and your insight. Check out the Baseball Barbercast. Check out his work across all of Yahoo Sports. We appreciate you, Jake. Thanks for getting up early with us. It's a busy time. So we appreciate you getting
Hey, listen, friends, I would never manipulate your service time. You understand?
That's what I'm talking about. And you know what? That's
you
also
a friend
because
that won't
you're a day
manipulate
one
service
major
time.
leaguer, though. Like, I mean,
Friends don't
your day
manipulate
one
other
interface.
friends' service times. Yeah.
That is. Yeah.
And you can take that to the bank.
Yeah, friends also don't manipulate friends' money, which is part of what they're doing. So, Jake, we appreciate you so much, man. Thanks for hanging out with us. All right, coming up next, we will get to a little bit of Cinderella action on target or on something. We'll figure out Cinderellas that might be able to make a run.
Who is your first player to team fit that you absolutely love? Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end of Oregon, to the Chiefs. And this was basically a post-combine reaction, basically Vernon Davis style numbers athletically. And so I think it was validating to see kind of him put those numbers up athletically, speed, explosion, change of direction. He feels like a player that is not going to drop very far in this draft, especially in a draft where there aren't a ton of blue chip players.
Do you feel pressure that this is America's birthday, this is the White House, you have to represent?
Hell yeah. I do feel pressure. I feel pressure that, I got to go out there and represent for the United States, and I got to go out there and I feel like I'm going to be expected to go out there and win this fight. I'll probably be a favorite. There's pressure right there too. I put pressure myself. I need to finish. It's been too long.
Mike Washington, speed score wonder, good size, just downhill in a hurry, but just can never quite make that safety miss unless he just runs past him.
He blew up because of the combine, and people were like, wow, who is this? And he has everything that, sleeper running backs people fall in love with, the size, the speed. There's usually a handful of guys like this. In this year's class, there's actually not a ton of guys like this that maybe boosted his stock a round or so.
The Dallas Mavericks, are they still taking Cooper Flag, Corey?
He is legitimately, as a 6'8" wing who does everything at a high level. Shows up every day, competes his ass off.
The way his handle has improved since high school to Duke to now suggests that this guy can be a MVP candidate, not just a multi-time All-Star as a role player, a high-end star role player, but a mega star.
I don't know how I feel about that. Cinderella is still alive and well. Jeff Goodman might need to be put on Twitter probation. I just don't. Caroline Fenton, I just don't know how I feel. Look, I'm all in on an interesting costume. It's really the smile. The smile is it's a little creepy. That's Texas coach Sean Miller, by the way, with the it's the head tilt and the smile together.
It's the way that he's staring at me through my soul, and he's telling me I know what you did last summer while also wearing a tiara.
Yeah, that is perfect. We've now combined a horror movie and a horrible show in toddlers and tiaras all at once. It's time for a segment we like to call On Target or On Something. Typically, this segment involves things people say, but we have a number of teams we didn't expect to be dancing into the second weekend. So now we're going to find out if we can pick any of these teams to keep going all the way. Here's the caveat to the Final Four. Okay, so they got to get all the way down to the Final Four. So Texas will reach the Final Four on target or on something.
You know what? It's March. Anything can happen in March. So on target, I'll go with it. I will rock with the Texas Longhorns. Hook 'em. Thank you very much. We've seen this before. We saw it with NC State. NC State was not even going to be a tournament team until they won the ACC tournament, and then they got hot at the most opportune time, and they found themselves in the Final Four. I think you could rationalize with yourself after Texas took down Gonzaga, because I thought it wasn't crazy to think that Texas could take advantage of a banged up BYU team, but Texas beating Gonzaga was like, oh wait, hold on, this team's different. This team actually does have the kind of March magic that could catapult them to a Final Four. I've been on the record saying, and I'll say it again, I think Purdue is the most overrated team in America. I think Texas can beat Purdue on their way to an Elite Eight. Why not? Why can't they ride the momentum to a Final Four? So maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm the one that's on something, but I'll go on target. We've seen it before with a team that wasn't supposed to be here. Why can't we see it again?
I don't believe in Purdue. So we agree on this. I can get Texas to the Elite Eight easily. I think that all makes a lot of sense, even though I didn't think Texas would go on this sort of run. Where I struggle, and the reason that I don't think they have a chance to get in, is then they have to take on either Arizona or Arkansas, and I like Arizona or Arkansas over Texas pretty handily. So no chance. I'm saying there's not a chance. I'm out here Debbie Downer in this whole thing right out of the gate. On target, on something. That one is on something. So how about this one then? All right, that's one down. We'll see what we can do with Iowa. Iowa will reach the Final Four on target or on something. What do you think?
I think you're on something there. Elite Eight, I'll buy it. I'll buy that Iowa can beat Nebraska, especially a Nebraska team that nobody even expected to be in the Sweet 16 in the first place. But I don't see Iowa getting past Houston, and I don't see Iowa getting past Illinois, and they're going to have to get past either one of those on their way to a Final Four. So I'm going to say on something, the Iowa Magic has been special, but I think it ends before they get to a Final Four.
Caroline, I was not particularly great at some levels of math in high school, right? And so, like, I felt good about the answer sitting at my desk, but if the teacher was ever like, come up to the board and you're going to do the problem here, I like, my level of tentative reminds me of how I feel about this, because I originally looked at it and I said, on something, there's no way. And then I kept thinking, well, every team remaining in this bracket isn't as good as Florida, and they just beat Florida. And when we keep talking about the analytics of their pace of play and the fact that they like to slow this whole dang thing down and they like to make it a little bit mucky and ugly in the second half, I think they got a little too conservative against Florida. But Florida's size didn't scare Iowa. Iowa's pace disrupted whatever Florida was doing. They out-rebounded Florida in that game. So we're on. You know what? I'm taking on target. I started this as on something.
Whoa.
Now I have walked myself into on target. Why not? Why not? There's no way in hell that I think Houston or Illinois are better than Florida, and I would just be Florida. So they swaggy walk into this thing, even though the game's basically in Houston. Still can't believe the committee did that. I got to get bold and daring here somewhere. So I'll say on target, and then when it doesn't work out, I'll just remind everybody I was scared of the take the entire time. How about this one? The team you know well, Tennessee. Tennessee reaching the Final Four, on target or on something?
On something. I'll believe it when I see it kind of sports fan, which isn't very fun, but that is who I am. Rick Barnes hasn't been to a Final Four since I was in kindergarten. I don't believe that Rick Barnes can get there. I will believe it when I see it. Rick Barnes has had the teams and has had the talent to make runs and really to win national championships at Tennessee, but they fall short. Something about this Tennessee team is it just feels like they lock up in their biggest moments. I don't trust Rick Barnes to be able to manage late game situations. There's something about Rick Barnes. Like, they will let teams go on 15-point runs. They'll let teams go on 9-minute runs, and Rick Barnes won't call a timeout. Rick, what are we doing here? They almost blew it against Virginia. So many moments late in that game, I thought, oh my God, they're really going to lose this game, aren't they? So they didn't. So you don't get in trouble for something that you didn't do. But we haven't seen Rick Barnes get past an Elite Eight at Tennessee. I'll believe it when I see it. So I'll say on something until I'm proven otherwise.
I am shooketh, Caroline. I just Googled it when you said it. Rick Barnes' last Final Four was 2003. For context here, 2003. For context, this year marks my 10-year anniversary in sports media. And as most people know, I made a large change in my life going from touring to talking about sports. I toured with the band for a decade that was lucky enough to have some hits. Rick Barnes' last Final Four appearance came before my first show with the band Perry. I've lived 2 full careers all over the world since the last time Rick Barnes made a Final Four. It did not sink in until you just said that, and I go, 2003. Good God, in 2003. I just think about how long that has been. But I'm with you. Like, you can make a permanent, timeshare. Like, at this point, Tennessee deserves a timeshare. They're always in the Sweet 16. Great. They get to spend their week, they spend their points, and then they go home. That's what they do. They spend their points, they go home. So we're on something. Tennessee not going to reach the Final Four. Also shooketh to realize that you were in kindergarten and I was already out earning money in life. All right, so let's get to one more. St. John's. How about this one? St. John's. They're in the gauntlet. They are in the gauntlet of the East. On target or on something? Patino to the Final Four. What do you think?
On target. On target.
Spicy.
On target.
Spicy.
I'm going with it. I'm riding with the Johnniest to the Final Four. This side of the bracket has the most chaos potential. Can St. John's beat Duke? If Siena can almost do it with 5 players, why can't St. John's? Why can't Rick Pitino, a Hall of Fame coach in this sport? Why can't, let's just say UConn gets past Michigan State. Those are familiar foes. Like, I think anyone could win that game. Why not St. John's? I know they got clobbered by UConn in the regular season. You think Rick Pitino's going to let that happen twice? I don't. Like, why can't St. John's beat Michigan State? Why not? Like, with this side of the bracket, and I would say the same thing. I think you could be on target to say Michigan State gets to the Final Four. That's why I have in my bracket. Not that anybody cares, but just for S's and G's, I'll let you know. I think UConn can get out. I think Duke can get out. I think St. John's can get out. I think that you can make a very fair argument for any of these teams to make it out of the East. So why not St. John's? Why not?
No, I'm not ready for it. The funny thing is, God, do I want it? I mean, Pitino in a Final
Yeah, you
Four.
are. You're ready for it.
This and the more you talk about it, the more I realize this is the bracket of villains in so many ways. I'm going to take Michigan State out of this segment for a second because everybody loves Tom Izzo, right? Like that's universally everybody loves Tom Izzo. Hurley, a villain. Pitino, a villain, right? Duke overall as a program, a villain. Right, so you've got these ultimate bad guys taking each other on and trying to make it, not bad people, but bad guys as in villains, trying to make it to this Final Four. And it's crazy because there's just a huge part of me that finds myself wanting. What I want out of this is Pitino versus Hurley. I want to see that for the right to go to the Final Four simply because what that means from that matchup. The fact that Pitino won against Kansas and then just like a mafia boss that just watched a full hit in front of him, turns and just walked. No emotion, just turns and walks to Bill Self to shake his hand like he knew it was coming the entire time. A dramatic win, no emotion, true vampire, right? So Pitino comes in true vampire mode. So I've got this mafia boss vampire killer of a coach on one side, taking on Duke next, which is a program the world loves to hate. And then he manages to get through that, and all of a sudden, he gets Hurley. I love the concept of this. Or we go straight Marvel movie, and this is where things get interesting. The villains all start battling each other, and through it all, through the ashes, Caroline Fenton's right. Her bracket is right. And through the ashes, you just see this one hand come out, boom, and he's clawing out from the ashes, and it's Izzo. I need Izzo clawing through all of the villains to get to the Final Four. I love this storyline. I don't think that St. John's actually gets there. I don't think they get there, but I can't imagine just a better phenomenon going into the Elite Eight than having Hurley versus Pitino, Big East, these two teams, these two programs that hate each other so much, and these two coaches. That feels like the sort of TV that we spend all week, Caroline, just getting ready for.
And that's why I think we love that side of the bracket, is because there's so many storylines that you don't have to be following every single game throughout the course of the season in order to identify these brands or to know that, oh, yeah, these are big time matchups. I love the idea of the villains too. It feels like that side of the bracket is like the movie Suicide Squad. It's all the bad guys coming together for the greater good. That is the East. It's Duke, it's Pitino, it's Danny Hurley. And whatever combination of teams that we will get in the Elite Eight, because we're getting it in the Sweet 16, whatever combination of teams that we get in the Elite Eight is going to be rich with storylines. And I love that.
So of all of these teams, Texas, Iowa, Tennessee, St. John's, which one do you think has the best chance? Because I'll go Iowa here. After seeing Iowa beat Florida, even though I think St. John's defense is disruptive, I don't know. I bought myself straight into Iowa could disrupt. Of the four that we're talking about, I think Iowa has the best path. What do you think?
For me, it's St. John's, which might sound crazy because they're going to have to get past Duke and then either Michigan State or UConn on the path to a Final Four. So the path isn't clear. It's not obvious because a lot has to go St. John's way. But I think it just feels so wide open. Because it's so stacked, it does feel wide open. There's not that one team that's so clearly and obviously better than everyone else. I would say Texas because I think that Texas can beat Purdue. But then you're going to have to get past Arizona. And I would not put my money on Arizona or Arkansas. Let's just go ahead and say everything goes chocolate. Say it is Arizona. Sorry, Cal. I don't see Texas getting past Arizona. I don't see anyone getting past Arizona, frankly. But I could see anyone getting past Duke or Michigan State or UConn or St. John's for that matter. So for how chaotic that side of the bracket is, for how rich in storylines and brand recognition that side of the bracket is, oddly, since it is so stacked, it does feel like it's anyone's game.
Yeah, and interesting to me, of the four teams we've mentioned, it's the Tennessee fan base that will be the most disappointed, I think, if their team isn't able to go on a run because Tennessee fans are so tired of constantly seeing the Sweet 16?
I think they're used to it. Coming from somebody who lives with a Tennessee fan and was born of two Tennessee fans, I know this fan base very well. Dylan is my soon-to-be husband, graduate from Tennessee. His little sticker that says March Sadness with a Tennessee logo. And he's preparing himself. He's ready. I don't think he will be disappointed because he knows. He's prepared himself for this.
I love that. I love the fact that she's just getting ready for the worst. We're going to get ready for the best coming up. We'll break down the Dallas Cowboys with the superstar, Kountry Wayne, going to join the show next.
What are some things about the Detroit Pistons that we on the outside might not know?
The culture, when I walked into this, the culture for me was pretty impressive. The way the players kind of come to bat for each other. And, Isaiah Stewart is not a guy off the court that is like an angry human being. In that Charlotte game, it was all he was saying in the locker room was like, I'm going to have you guys back. That's what I do. For me, it's impressive to see just how together everyone is and, the culture that they've continued to build.
I have Sadiq at the top like you. That's not the surprise. Sam Roush from Stanford, who had the big combine, unlike a lot of college tight ends that are productive, he actually, in my opinion, is playing the position like a pro right now. I love how he rumbles after the catch. I like Sam Roush quite a bit, Nate, because I just love that I could put him on the line of scrimmage, and I think he's tough as hell.
I do want to ask you about your teammate Jalen Coker. Can you kind of tell the people about Jalen, the person, the player, everything in between?
The people love him, the teammates love him, the coaches love him. And you see, as the year went on, how much faith, how much trust, how much belief that Bryce has in him, that the coaching staff has in him. I mean, he can do it all. He has good routes, very physical. He plays inside, outside. I mean, he does pretty much everything, man. And the Panthers definitely got a gem.
We've talked a lot, in fairness, about guys like Joe Burrow that are frustrated with losing. You know that experience. What advice would you give somebody that is so premier as a talent, but is with a franchise that can't seem to find a way to maximize it?
There's no guarantee for any of us, right, at the start of the season, you're going to end up with a championship. If you're an elite athlete, you embrace that challenge, such a special, unique thing, right? Because the best players in the league don't necessarily always get there, but generally the best teams do.
Stand-up comedian, YouTube star, movie producer, Kountry Wayne doing it all right now. And his second special, Nostalgia, is out on Prime Video. He joins us right now, diehard Cowboys fan. When I say nostalgia, my friend, what gives you, when you think Cowboys and nostalgia, what memory comes up for you first?
America's team, the best NFL team ever that's carrying the NFL. If it wasn't for the Cowboys, it wouldn't be no NFL. I just feel like that. I feel like the energy of how it was. Oh, man.
Look like a true Cowboy fan. Without the Cowboys, there would be no NFL. But it was very fun, I will say, to relive the glory days of the Cowboys with the docuseries on Netflix. It was so fun to kind of walk down memory lane. But I mean, maybe the recent years of the Cowboys had a little bit of a bad taste in your mouth about the great years of the Cowboys. That might start with Micah Parsons. Have you gotten over it? Have you forgiven Jerry Jones for trading away Micah Parsons?
No, I haven't. I'm going to be honest. I haven't forgiven him. I haven't. And I think, I don't know what happened, but I got it. Me and one of my Cowboy buddies was talking yesterday, and we was like, you know what? We did make some other good moves. I'm going to focus on the positive. But I don't know what Jerry was doing. I don't know what he was on. I went to their training camp. I really wanted to talk to him. They thought they had me out there with the players, and I kept looking up at him in the box or whatever. But we got something in the works that I haven't seen, but it's working.
I mean, stick there for a second. Got some of the, I mean, you're famous, right? So, what's the coolest Cowboys moment you've had as a famous person that gets to hang out around the team?
Well, the coolest moment I had, I got to talk to Dak Prescott, and I shook his hand. And after I shook his hand, I feel like he had a better season. That was one of my milestones. I went to Ezekiel Elliott's house after one of the games. And, I had a lot of Cowboy moments. And to be honest, Cowboys are one of the reasons why I'm famous, because in 2016, I started doing the Cowboys videos while we were on their winning streak with Dak and Ezekiel Elliott, and I caught that moment, and it was amazing.
How did you become a Cowboys fan?
Oh, it's in the '90s. I always run with the winners. Some people rock with losers, but in the '90s it was Michael Jordan. It was the Dallas Cowboys. So I'm a winner type of person. So I attach myself to winners, and it's just my energy just was like that. And it was the Emmitt Smith era, the Michael Irvin. It was come on, Troy Aikman. It was the era. So I'm the type of person that like attach myself to winners. So that's what happened.
Look, I can't blame you at all. I'm a Raiders fan. I have no idea what it feels like to actually watch winning football. All right, so you guys you've got some talent right now. You got some winners on your team right now. George Pickens out here sitting on a franchise tag. You think Jerry's going to pay him? Like, what would you get this moment now? This is your plea to Jerry. What do you do?
You pay him. Jerry gonna pay him. He holding back a little bit. He did that with Ezekiel Elliott one time. Remember, he acted like he wasn't gonna pay him. Then it was like Zeke who in the shirts. I think Jerry is a great marketing agency. He found a way to make his team because he's not winning Super Bowls, but the Dallas Cowboys somehow finds a way to be the most money team in America. So I think he's playing the marketing game. But right now it's time to win a Super Bowl, and we need Pickens. He's young. We got Dak in his prime right now, and we got Lamb over there doing what he's doing. So it's like this is the time that we in a Super Bowl run. So Jerry kind of know him being a part of Super Bowl. He got the feeling of how Super Bowls feel. So it's time to bring that feeling back, the nostalgia way. Come on, Jerry. Pay the man. Let's get Pickett. Let's get it. Oh, I heard the sound.
Master marketer. Yeah, that's going to be him here pretty soon. Also, Jerry Jones pretty much every day when he wakes up. But master marketer 1000%. Jerry knows how to get his team into the headlines. That's his strength, right? Let's put yourself in the shoes of the Dallas Cowboys owner. You now own the team. What's your first order of business? What are we doing?
Oh, I'm getting every piece that we need. I'm not worried about the marketing because really with winning, Jerry forgot. That's how you became that. You won. You got to win. So I'm going to do whatever I got to do to put us in the best position to win. I'm not letting go of Michael Parsons. I'm not doing that. But that's here, not there. That's over with. But right now, I'm paying Pickens. I'm doing whatever we got to do. I'm putting, I'm focusing on the line, whatever. But Dak need time. He need more time back there. And I'm focused on doing what we got to do to win. The jerseys is going to sell. The stadium going to sell out. You got the people. It's like when you got a wife. Happy wife, happy life. But you got to win.
Well, the stadium is going to be packed in Brazil this season. The Cowboys playing there. We got the Kountry Wayne going to be headed to Rio to watch a little Cowboy action.
They got to send me some money for the ticket. To come out there. I got a lot of child support. Alimony. I need Jerry needs to send me some of that money to come out there.
It's got to be first class, or do we fly coach? Are you willing to be coach to go to Rio if it's on the Cowboys time, or do they need to PJ you?
I don't want to sound bougie on this show, but I definitely don't want to fly back there.
Look, if the two options are coach or PJ, I mean, the answer is pretty clear. It's going to be PJ. What are your thoughts, though, as a Cowboys fan, as a football fan in general? What are your thoughts on some of these overseas games?
A lot of the stuff is probably above my pay grade, so it's probably some marketing. They're trying to stretch the league. Probably, I don't know what they're doing, but I just feels like it's good. At the end of the day, there's nothing like growing. There's nothing like showing what started here, over there, and it's part of growth. So I'm always with growth. So anytime somebody's growing or evolving, I'm with that.
All right, so walk me through what a Sunday is like for Kountry Wayne. It's a Cowboys game day. What are we doing? How are we consuming it? Where are we hanging out with? Like, what's the watch experience like for you when the Cowboys are on TV?
Usually I go get my Cowboys jersey, one of my Cowboy jerseys out of my closet. They hung right by each other in order. I pick out one of the jerseys. I go pick up some blue jeans. I love the blue jeans. A pair of white Air Force Ones. Sometimes I come with something that got a little Cowboy color in it. And me and my brother watch the game. And my brother, whatever team the Cowboys play, he put on the jersey of the other team. He's a Cowboy hater. So I got his name in my phone as Cowboy hater. I might got the phone right here. I got his name in there as Cowboy hater. That's his name. And I watched the game. And I watched the game.
I'm just a little. He's buying a jersey for. That's a lot of jerseys, dude.
It's a lot of jerseys.
Yeah, it's a lot of jerseys, but see, it's a lot of hate. It's a lot of hate out here for the Cowboys. You know what I mean? This my brother. This my brother. I don't want to give away his number, but if you can see it, Cowboy hater.
Oh my god! In
That's
all
amazing.
caps too. Nonetheless.
Okay.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So I
that's
watched
a lot
the
of
game.
hate. A lot of hate
A lot
for
of
the
hate. Y'all-
Cowboys.
It's a lot of hate out there for the Cowboys, but we should love the Cowboys because, to be honest, a lot of sports shows, it gives us conversation. Like Stephen A. Smith wouldn't even have a job if it weren't for the Cowboys. He has nothing else to talk
Maybe
about.
there may be a little bit of truth to that. Who do
Yeah,
you
he
hate
has-
the
he has
most
nothing
as
else
a
to talk
Cowboys
about.
fan?
You got to have the one to hate. It's like every story. It's like the Avengers. You know what I'm saying? What is his name? Themos? Yeah, you got to have the
Thanos,
one
yeah,
to hate.
yeah.
Yeah. Like people talk about LeBron, so it give you something to talk about. The Cowboys are single-handedly sacrificed themselves for the NFL sports world to be what it is today.
Every good story needs a villain. That's what the Cowboys
Yeah.
are. It feels like to a lot of football fans. But as a Cowboys fan, who do you hate the most?
Who do I hate the most? I'm gonna be honest. I don't hate them because I don't like to use the word hate, but I don't like them a lot. The Eagles. The Eagles something about the Eagles do something to me, man. The Eagles and Pittsburgh Steelers fans. I just feel like Pittsburgh Steelers fans are meaner, but the Philly just forget that that when they catch a run, they act like they just was there the whole time a little bit. And they like to forget what the Cowboys did. Pittsburgh Steelers, they respect what we did back in the day. But it's like they're so mean. They serious about their terrible towels. I did a show one time and they threw a towel on stage and said, F them Cowboys. I didn't pay attention to their towel. I threw their towel down. The whole club booed me. Boo! That's why they like want to rush. I'm like, man, y'all threw the towel at me. But Philadelphia Eagles and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah.
So your new special is called Nostalgia. Why was nostalgia something you wanted to focus on?
Because I want to go back to the 90s. And back when the Cowboys was winning Super Bowls and a lot of other things, when the music and R&B was R&B, and we were in, school was school, when you had the lunch, you didn't have cell phones. I just want to bring people back to love. And that's what it was. The world was so much a better place when the Cowboys were winning. We need to figure out a way to fix that. So I just want to bring it back to that feeling of love and get all this hate that's on the internet that people have and judgment through comments. When everything was good and we enjoyed life, going outside. So that's what I wanted nostalgia to feel like.
We know the Cowboys were better in the 90s. Were sports as a whole better in the 90s?
Yes. Come on, the 90s, you got the Cowboys. You got Michael Jordan. And you got Michael Jordan. And you got Michael Jordan. And the Cowboys. And Michael Jordan. And don't forget about the run that the Miami Dolphins had with Dan Marino when they had that streak but didn't win the Super Bowl. It was just so much going on in the 90s. The 90s were the 90s. This when shoes were coming out, when it felt pure before stars started getting on social media too much and all of that. It was just the 90s was a different game for sports for sure. I think it's hard to be. I think it's hard to be that kind of star now.
Yeah, you mentioned like a couple of the stars that you just mentioned. So look at the Cowboys, look at Michael Jordan. Can you imagine if Michael Irvin and Michael Jordan lived in a 24/7 news cycle with Twitter and paparazzi following them everywhere? Like, how different would we see some of the stars? Because I'm with you. The 90s was a different era, but we didn't have the same level of access to information. I wonder if we would look back at that era differently if social media existed than the way it does now.
And that's the difference. I don't think we're supposed to look at everything everybody do. That's God's job. That's why we got doors on our room, in our houses. The kids can't come in the room all the time. So it's like, I think social media kind of took away that moment of just looking at things for what it is, because at the end of the day, we're all here together in this world. We all living together and we all gonna leave here one day. So it's like I don't got time to worry about everything somebody did. You know, as long as it ain't too bad. Now some stuff need to get exposed when you harming people and doing things like that. And but I think we know too much about our superstars and their business. Like Michael Jordan was married. We knew he was married, but we didn't know about their business. I don't even remember seeing the inside of his house. Only thing I seen him in that Bulls jersey with those commercials in the shoes. And now with sports, it's like their personal lives get bigger than the game. And as a fan, I don't want to see that. I'm trying to escape through this. It's like going in the bar. I don't drink, but if somebody go in there and drink, I don't got no time for nobody to be preaching to me and telling me what it does. Because like, hey, I already know that. It's like right now, you know, I spent this $20. So I think sports definitely now it's not the same. We don't have no superstars that we look at like that and can enjoy the game because it's always a political part to it. Oh, their girlfriend was there. And it's like, it takes away from the fun to me.
You're 1,000% right. I know that nostalgia will be amazing. Check it out on Prime Video. Kountry Wayne, we appreciate you, man. Good luck. When the Cowboys win the Super Bowl, come back, hang out with us first. All right, that's all we're saying.
That's
come
soon.
hang out with us first.
That's soon. That's soon. In the next 3 years, we got a Super Bowl. In the next 10, we got 2 Super Bowls. I already predicted.
He's predicting it. When they win the Super Bowl, come back and see us. It'll be 2043. But either way, I'm just kidding. No, we appreciate your time, Kountry Wayne. Thanks for hanging out, man.
All right.
We're big fans. We appreciate you.
All right, y'all be good. Thanks.
Great stuff from Kountry Wayne. I love the Cowboys hope. Coming up, the hope you really need. There's some interesting ballpark items out there we'll break down the way only this show can.
Criticism like that from a coach. In the moment, how are you feeling when that's happening and the film's on screen?
Yeah, man, I think it's you listen more to the message and not the tone of the message. I mean, I think it's actually better to get called out than to not, because it shows not only like you're not worried about getting your feelings hurt. Like they're not worried about hurting my feelings. And that's something I love about our coach. Like he's not really worried about hurting your feelings. He's going to tell you, shoot it to you straight. And for me, like I've always thrived under coaches that do that.
We are ranking the biggest robberies in MLS histories, the players who looked at their team owners and said, thanks for the cash, and gave absolutely nothing in return. If your team is on this list, we are very, very sorry. Danielson, FC Dallas. His contract was for $879,000.
If you're watching this, look at his photo. He don't even look interested to be there in the photo.
With 10 appearances, he effectively got nearly $100,000 per game.
I'm sitting there watching Unreal, and they're talking about you in WWE at the Royal Rumble, just being thrown into the ring. You ever getting back in the ring for one of those opportunities again after that injury?
Man, I don't know. I mean, we got WrestleMania coming up, so you maybe see me in there, you maybe not. I'm just not trying to get beat up, but we'll see. We'll see. Like I got beat up too much times. My body can't take that anymore.
Little teaser from the one and only Nate Diaz. Unfinished business. And then he expanded on that on Twitter and said, I'll see you soon. I'm coming.
What about Dustin? Dustin versus Nate. Big fight. That could be a co-main or a main for a big fight card.
One that we always wanted to see.
One that Dustin has said, that'll get me out of retirement. The UFC could use him more than ever. They need stars now.
Oh, the chef's hats. Chef's kiss to Doug. You're getting this ready. It's time for Can't Wait. This is what we love to do here. We love on this show to bring in a little bit of Bart Scott as our spirit animal. And we give you this, we decide if something's a Bart or a fart, right? And if it's a Bart, then we tell you it's a Bart, and you hear the noise of Bart Scott telling us all. Can't wait. Can't wait. And then if it's the opposite of a Bart, it's a fart, and you get to hear this delightful noise. But now, instead of doing it with games as we usually do it, we're doing with something game adjacent, because for anyone that hasn't been paying attention, Major League Baseball is rolling out all sorts of new food items, hence the chef's hats at the beginning. So we're going to play full chef here, and we're going to decide on some of these food items, whether they are a Bart or a fart. First up, the Marlins, offering the machete. All right, this is a 2-foot flour tortilla filled with 2 cheeses, carne asada, and salsa verde. 2 feet. What do you think, Caroline? Fart or fart?
No, yeah, this is a fart. This is a big time fart. I don't want to be the person sitting next to the person that eats that. That's disgusting. That's a concourse meal, okay? And if you're gonna eat a 2-foot-long taco in the concourse, don't even come to the game, all right? We want something portable. We want something quick. We're gonna bring our tacos or our hot dog to our seat with us. And also, it's not functional. If you want all that taco, be my guest. But just have it come in the form of a bunch of smaller tacos, like normal-sized tacos. Because the first bite you take out of that, all the insides are gonna come out. And then you got carne asada everywhere. You got onions flying all around the place. By the point you get to the middle of the taco, there's nothing left because it all fell out. So it's not very nice to the person sitting next to you. It's not very functional. Like, it looks delicious. Do not get me wrong. That looks like a nice little tortilla. But, like, just have it come in the form of smaller tacos. Why does it have to be 2 feet long? Why does it have to be toddler-sized? It's just
2 feet long is what makes it delightful. This is the bartiest of Barts. This is a Bart. Can't wait. And by the way, in the comments we're hearing the people say we should Lady and the Tramp this. Yes. Yes, look, the only thing this thing is missing is a full tub of sour cream. I want a tub of sour cream that I can rip each chef. I want to dip and then just go. Yeah, and I want all, like, I wish I had a tub of sour cream and I wish I had a tub of extra dipping cheese. Like, give me nacho cheese that I could just, like, the canned nacho cheese that I can just dip. I know it's already got 2 cheeses in it, but you're giving me all of this. Dude, yeah, dip it. Yes. Yes, for the love of God, dip it in a pool of sour cream and cheese, and then I eat that thing. Oh, my God. I don't know how to say can't wait in Spanish, but I would. Like that, just because it's Mexican food. I want all day, every day. Congratulations, Marlins. 9 out of 10 on this. I cannot wait to try it. This looks delightful. Let's get the next food item in and see if we can agree on the can't wait element of this one. All right, so how about instead of chicken and waffles, how about chicken and churros at Wrigley Field this year? Best new ballpark, Darren Ravel says chicken and churros. So it looks like a little bit of fried chicken bites with some churro, a little butter on the top. What do you think?
This is a Bart.
Can't wait.
This is absolutely a Bart. It would be even Bartier if the churros were from Costco. Those are the best churros in America. But these churros still do look delicious. Look, I love chicken. I love churros. Both of those things together can't be a bad thing. I think this is chicken and waffles, but better. Chicken and waffles, but elevated. And everyone loves chicken and waffles. So chicken and churro, yes, 1000%, absolutely. And most importantly, this is something you can bring down to your seat with you. I'm not in the business of missing any innings for the sake of eating chicken and churros in the concourse. So yes, absolutely Bart. I am here for this. Love this. 1000% Bart.
This is a fart. This is a fart. Look, I love sweets, by the way. Just a reminder, I eat like I should be 400 pounds. So I love sweets. But I disagree with everything you just said at a core level. Churros are a downgrade from waffles. Churros, in fact, are one of the most overrated foods in America. So I'm out on churros. But, yeah, thank you. Now, also on top of this, you've got powdered sugar and dipping sauces. They're all sort of on the plate. This is going to be a messy disaster to eat, which means I'm probably going to have to either get it all over my hands, which is going to be gross, or I'm going to have to fork and knife it. I don't want to fork and knife that.
Yeah.
So I feel, no,
Just
I'm
fork
not
and
forking
knife it.
I'm not forking and knifing churros.
This
no.
is more messy than a 2-foot-long taco?
Well, the 2-foot-long taco is just going to spill everywhere, but my hands aren't going to get sticky. My hands are going to get sticky. I don't mind the taco meat on this one. Mike Golick Jr. Oh yeah, this is how I die. Bad take. It's a bad take by everybody. This is an overrated food item. I am farting the chicken and churros. All right, how about this one? We got another challenge. American. You're right. We're up for a big challenge on this one. Thank you. Let's go to Arizona. Arizona giving us the 128-ounce bucket of nachos. 128-ounce bucket of nachos. So I think I skipped one here. Sorry, guys. We'll get to the other one. The 128-ounce bucket of nachos in Arizona. Are we Bart or farting that one?
No, I'm farting this one. Not because I don't love nachos. Yep, that's a nacho fart right there. Not because I don't love nachos. I love nachos. But again, I'll go back to functionality. I think that we've concessioned a little bit too close to the sun in Major League Baseball parks, so we need to reel it in a little bit. Because yes, we love nachos, but I'm thinking about the bottom of the bucket that has no cheese, that has no meat, that has no jalapeno. It's like that Tim Robbins sketch about how his date ate all of the fully loaded nachos, ate all the nachos with the good stuff on them. Well, that's what it's going to be at the bottom. But you're just going to have chips at the bottom, and I'm not paying for just chips. I'm paying for 128 ounces of nachos, thank you very much. And I would like all of my chips to be nachoed. So it's just not functional.
I'm with you. It's a fart for that exact reason. You either have to layer the cheese as you go, which is going to make the chips soggy. I don't want any of that. I don't want soggy chips. How about the New York Mets daring fans to eat a hot dog and a drink and drink a beer every inning? It's the 9-9-9 challenge. 9 dogs, 9 beers, 9 innings, Citi Field 26. What do you think? Part or fart?
It's a Bart for the fun
Can't wait.
factor. It's a fart for whoever has to clean up your projectile vomit in the 8th inning. That's gross. And also, that's not real. The picture that we're seeing, those are mini hot dogs. No. If you're gonna do 999, you're doing a full beer and a full-size hot dog. None of this rinky-dink, teeny, tiny, weeny thing that we've got going on with the Mets. You've got to do it all in. If you're gonna do 999, you have to go fully in. But like, it's fun. It's a fun idea. I've heard this before. But like, that's a lot of a hot dog and that's a lot of beer. And especially like if we're doing this in July, it's gonna be really hot outside. And I don't want to be part of 9 beers and 9 hot dogs in 99 degrees. So far.
Yeah, I'm with you that it's a fart because the beer's going to get so warm by the end, and the hot dogs are going to get so weird by the end texturally. Like, give me a token each inning. Let me go up to the special thing each inning and get a new one. I think I could do the 999 challenge. I believe I could do that. But I think it would be particularly difficult with the 9th inning warm beer. We saved the best one for last.
What's harder, though? The hot dog or the beer?
The beer for me.
Could you
the
drink
beer.
9 beers or eat 9? I think it's the beer would be. I think the beer's easier.
I think the beer's harder. I could eat 9 hot dogs. 9 hot dogs is child's play. All right.
No.
The best one is the last one. This is the ultimate part, and I don't really care what anybody has to say. They take me out to the ballpark shake. All right, this year the Diamondbacks have this. It's a salted caramel shake with whipped cream, peanut butter sandwich cookie, Kit Kat bars, and Cracker Jacks. This is the ultimate part. In fact, if I don't get one of these this year, I might just quit. Like, there's only one concession I have to have in a ballpark all year. It's this one, and my only question is, does it come in a larger size? I want this. I might get 2 in a game. I could absolutely house. This is speaking my love language. I don't need your nachos. I don't need your hot dogs. I don't need your chips. I need this. And in fact, if you gave me a challenge to eat 9 of these in one game, I would try and take that challenge. This is the ultimate part, Caroline.
Do you think God ever lives in fear of his own creation? That's how I feel about this monstrosity. How in the world do you drink that? It's gonna melt. This is Arizona, okay? Anybody ever been to a baseball game in Phoenix? It's hot, okay? Have you ever experienced 120-degree weather? Because that's what it is in Arizona during baseball season. You think that you can take that thing from the concession stand to your seat without it completely melting and getting all over your hands and everything getting sticky? No, that's too much. That's too much. What happened to just a hot dog and a beer at a baseball game? Oh, all of a sudden you have to get diabetes in the process?
Look, yes, you do. And look, to your point, I don't like them when they get melted, so I just try and eat my ice cream that fast. That would be the only thing that would slow me down. You spoon this one until you get to the bottom half. Diamondbacks, you're not looking for suggestions, but if I could give you one, maybe line the cup with the peanut butter sauce too. I'm just trying to add an extra element of sweet for that thing. I'm going to a Diamondbacks game this year just to get 3 of those. We'll be back tomorrow with more Yahoo Sports Daily. Seas Caroline Fenton. I'm hungry. I'm Jason Fitz. Come back. See us tomorrow.